तू चलता चल तू चलता चल तू चलता चल.
So good morning everyone. Good morning sir. Today we have with us Mohit Saini. The most important part is that he had been a coordinator across several groups in NFA. We will ask him the experience. We will first start with the fact that he is one of the youngest, just passed out from 12th, and he has cleared it in third attempt. This was his TES entry. First was ND and screen out, conference out. So Mohit, good morning, welcome, and tell us something regarding what motivated you, since you are from Jammu, what motivated you to join the forces, and that too at a very younger age you could gauge that I want to do this.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, thank you for letting me in here. Ma'am, actually, the motivation was always to live a good life, and Indian Army now offered not just a good life, but a life less ordinary. That was always my primary motivation. My father was also in Indian Army, and I was living in such conditions that everyone around me was in the army only. So one could say that मुझे फौज का ही पता था और कुछ पता ही नहीं था. तो इसीलिए I was always focused about joining the National Defense Academy was my primary focus. Later on, I got to know about that there are several other entries like Navy 10+2 and the TES, and I joined them, applied for them also. And the India when I got conference out, it was my SSB Kapurthala. I joined NFA 6 months back and became a coordinator of several groups around 4 to 3 months back. Eventually, it helped me out in all the things, especially during the procedure itself and preparation itself.
So tell us about this particular attempt in which you got recommended, your entire experience starting from day one, screening, then psychology, one by one, whatever that you can recollect for us.
Okay, ma'am. So the screening process went as usual, like you will hear from anyone else. 241 reported, groups of 20 were created. I had practiced OIR and I was good at it from the initial itself. So 40 questions were given to be solved in 20 minutes twice. And there's a 5-minute alarm given before the 21 minutes end up. So I was able to do all the questions and was very confident about all of them well before the timings, before the 5-minute alarm itself. So my OIR went well. Further on, a picture was shown of a few college students standing. And I made a story around them, keeping in the mind various aspects that need to be followed to make a reasonable story. I narrated it well. Then actually, the main lesson here for everyone is that actually I also learned, it was my instinct actually. When I got screened out in Navy, again, there were groups of 16 in that case. And as usual, you will hear that a chaos is created initially when the GD starts. So at that time, in my second attempt, when I was in Bhopal, the Navy entry, I was sitting quiet that I do not want to be a part of this chaos. But this time, I don't know what happened, but it was my instinct that I realized that chaos is going to be my breeding ground. Chaos is a breeding ground for natural leaders, who are not just leaders because someone told them to be, or they are carrying a tag of leader. But at that point, when there is such a chaos, everyone is thinking, oh my God, what is happening? When will I get a chance? Why is everyone shouting? And at that point, if someone responsible, mature, stands up and says, okay, calm down everyone, otherwise we'll be just wasting our time. Let's speak one by one. I think that wins the confidence of everyone. And that's the thing I actually did. And to my surprise, 20 of them, actually 19 of them, agreed to my point and everyone calmed down. I was really surprised at that point. But again, then I hinted at another section as the curvature of the group. And then the person gave a point, then I added my point. And this thing carried on not just once or twice, but still the thing was not working that efficiently. So eventually the group was split and I was rather able to perform better in my splitted group also. So just like me, various challenges will come to you whenever you're participating in such a test like this discussion test in this case. So I tackled it my way. You can.
These challenges do come, and that is why we face such questions. Actually, I wish to ask you, how exactly did you tackle and catch that few seconds to say that, calm down, and we will have, and 19 of them agreed. So that's a big thing, and people find that to be difficult to catch those moments, to drive the GD for the common consensus, and to calm down the group, the chaos. So how exactly did you do that?
So the basic bedrock state starts that you should be clear about yourself. You should be clear about the various stories that you have heard upon, and then you should build a reasonable story that, in my opinion, should be accepted by all. Now, this should be your expectation that is not going to happen ever, but you should, at least from your side, should have a prepared entire story, which should, in my opinion, not be very similar to one that you have earlier prepared, and then propose the same story to the group so that people can directly pick up whatever they want and build a story upon that. Now, coming to the chaos part, I think first, if you are good at your communication skills, if you are able to convey whatever you want to effectively, and people are able to hear you, and you are able to address everyone, I think that's plays the second role. And if you're having clarity in what you want to say, and that is strong enough, backed by good things, then you convey them eventually good. And in my opinion, third thing would be that if you are able to make good eye contact, you're able to reflect confidence in your posture also. I think these things eventually will create some kind of, and actually I learned this from Yugal Bhaiya, that during the screening process, everyone is seeing new faces around. And your individual narration, the quality of your story, and the way you narrated, it is going to be the very first impression, not just on the assessors, but also on the people around you. So if you are able to do well in that, you will earn some kind of unsaid respect in their subconscious mind. So eventually, when you will realize that, oh, now I want to stabilize this chaos, I want to take the leader's part. I think eventually, if you are having good content, you have earned some kind of respect. Eventually, people will listen to you, and initiative is going to be the very first thing. If you do not initiate, this is never going to happen. And another challenge that actually later on came to my part during the when the group was split, that I was trying to quickly ensure that we come at a consensus, we make a short, crisp story. But so initially the group went for model making. Then another person started saying, two, 3 people started saying that let's make a story on cleanliness. So I was trying to convince them, but again, they were not convinced, and it was consuming time. So I proposed the idea of a hybrid thing, that let's make a hybrid thing, that they were working on this. They were supposed to work on this model, and at the same time, they were also working in this clean eco club, which was working for the cleanliness of the campus. So they realized that if they can make a model on waste management, which is going to be a very effective method, if we really want to make sure the thing, if we want to make sure that cleanliness is there in the place, I think waste management can be an effective area. So I proposed a hybrid of both the ideas. So most of them agreed. But then again, 2 3 people started saying that no, let's make a different story, and that was completely entirely different. Probably very similar to what they have actually made their initial story. So I was not able to tackle this third problem when they came up with the third idea. I was trying to again and again convince them. I was trying to ask them to cooperate, but eventually our group was not able to come at any consensus at this stage. So our GD, the officer, asked us to stop, and then the GD moved toward the second group. And since we were not able to come at a consensus story, they also didn't pick the story we actually had a bit formed. So I think these are the challenges that I have faced in my recent SSB. So I think most of the people will face unique challenges depending on the people that they are around. And again, as Sir Col Nehru also says, that during the screening process, at least do the best you can do, that you can do the good OIR, you can write a reasonable story and narrate it well. 75% of the job is done. Now GD is quite relative, and can be surprising to you. Sometimes the people can be very good, sometimes they cannot be. So I think if you do the best at your hand, I think then you will be on a safer side. But otherwise, I still believe that screening is a test of luck. If you are lucky on that day, you will get screened in. Otherwise, not.
That factor is also there. Fine. Tell us something regarding your psychology. How did it go?
So next day when psychological test started, TTs went well, inspired from the stories as written in the practical guide to become an officer by Col Nehru. I wrote reasonable stories, short, crisp. At a point, it came to me that actually our officer there who was taking a test had reiterated on this point that this is a test of imagination, and uh, I don't know what happened, but it stuck in my subconscious. And at a point, it happened that I came across a picture where it was a desert. A few footprints were visible. A man walking away, his back was visible, and a cannon was visible. And I was not getting any idea at all. Half of the time went as I was not aware. I realized that half of the time had gone. I had no idea what to write, and then I remembered this thing that this is a test of imagination. So I wrote a story about a person working in film industries, and he was supposed to create background scenes for a very specific iconic song. Each of his its line of this song was very symbolic, and he was required to recreate similar scenes that would resonate with the lyrics. So he came up with this idea that one of the line was, "There are no winners or losers in a war; there are only survivors." So the cannon was visible desert. I thought would simply would symbolify that no one is left, just one person, loneliness. And you may like it or you may not like it, because the same case is with me. Sometimes I like the story, sometimes I don't. So at that point, actually, I was getting no idea, but eventually I wrote this one. Now coming to the blank story, so as usually Sir advocates, I had I remembered a very crisp and still very effective story, and I was able to write this blank story in half of the time, and I utilized the rest of the half part to have a look on the other stories I had actually written before. Then coming to WATs, I think for personally, romantic thing for WAT is that I should write at least one sentence out of 10 that is very good. So on each page, there are 10 sentences. So out of each these 10, I used to take part in only 9 or 8. I used to leave one because actually it would help, it would get missed, because out of every 10, I would get a specific word that I realized, no, I have a very good idea upon this. I just need to give time to myself so that I can structure the sentence well. And I know it takes time for me. So 15 seconds, I cannot do it. Eventually, it would take 20 to 25 seconds or sometimes even 30 seconds. So one word would be left, and I was totally okay with this. Out of every 10 words, I was able to do 9 or 8, and at least 1 or 2 out of them was very good in my opinion. And similar thing went for the all 60s. So around, you can say, minimum I would have done 50 out of 60 WATs. Then coming to SRTs, now during my first attempt when I went to my NDA entry Kapurthala, I was able to do with normal speed, my reaction to the various stimuli, the various situations given. I was able to perform to 52 to 53 SRTs, and I thought that it was okay number, so also agreed with this. And I thought this was my normal speed. And here I was also going with my just normal speed, writing comprehensive, still effective uh, responses to every situation. But I don't know what happened. The sir said time is over, and I was able to do only 30 SRTs out of 60. Then coming to self-description test. In my ND entry, I did a mistake that I was writing each paragraph from 1 to 5. I would write everything about 1, then 2, and 3, and eventually I was able to do only 3 out of these 5 paragraphs. This time I knew I need to manage time, so I started writing 3 lines about each paragraph, about my parents' opinion, teacher's opinion, friend's opinion, and the other 2, the person I am, the person I want to be. Started three lines of each, and then started adding points to each of them. Eventually, I was able to manage my time well and do justice to all the desirous points that were need to be mentioned in all the paragraphs. Then I think the psychology tests were over. Enjoyed my rest of the day, and then revised my notes about my current affairs, because the next day was going to be the GTO day 1.